Hi everyone. We're going to continue with Chapter 11. Chapter 11, Dick's Dream. The horses shuffled. They needed to go out for a few minutes. The bantams fluttered. The lady took some water. Whittington was hungry. Dick's dream of roast meat made him think of food. Then everybody came back and settled, and the cat resumed. Every morning on awakening, Dick told himself his dream to keep courage. He didn't think about what he would be leaving, only where he was going. London rang in his head like a bell. No carriages passed through his town. The farmers' carts never went much beyond the village. The boy watched and waited for another stranger to come through. He knew he'd get to London somehow. He knew his dream was a prophecy. "What's prophecy?" Ben asked. "It's telling about what's going to happen," the cat replied. As part of her learning to read, the boy's grandmother had copied out Bible prophecies with the priest. "How did you learn to read?" Ben asked. He wanted to know because he was having trouble. "I never learned," said Whittington. "Do you know how?" "Some," said the boy. "No, he doesn't. Not really," said Abby, shaking her head. She didn't mean it in a mean way. She said it with a worry of love. "Gran got a note from his teacher that he's not reading like he's supposed to. They're going to put him in special ed if he doesn't get better." Ben's face darkened. The lady looked up angrily. "Who is special ed?" "It's not a person," Abby said. "It's a class where they take you out so that you don't hold up the others. They take you out of the room and everybody knows you're stupid. They call the special eds retards." Whittington studied Ben's face, remembering another boy. "Do you know how to read?" the cat asked Abby. She nodded. "Gran helped me." What she didn't say was that after her mother died, Abby wouldn't do anything in school. It was a battle to get her to go at all. Finally, Marion started taking her. So long as her gran sat in the classroom, Abby would work along with the others, but she was way behind. If Gran left, Abby fought and cried. Marion quit doing the books and car rentals at the Texaco and signed on as a teacher's aide. "Imagine me with no college helping out in a classroom," she told Bernie. "I'll tell you, those teachers are heroes, all what they do." The kids assigned to Marion, Abby, and two of her classmates were struggling and angry. There's a lot of anger in not being able to do what people think you should be doing. Marion's job was to help them read the special books they'd been assigned. She brought in gingerbread men she made with a lot of ginger. She gave pats and pushes. As they progressed from one book to the next, she'd tell them, "Look what you did." The lady asked Abby, "Why doesn't your gran help Ben the way she helped you?" "He won't let her. She gives him a book or even a cereal box to read, and he throws it across the room. He does the same thing in school sometimes." Ben looked down. He was scared. Reading was too hard. It was the hardest thing he'd ever tried. Reading aloud meant dragging words out, even easy words. He'd get 3 words right, then there'd be a baffler. There were giggles when he missed. His reading aloud was flat, just words. If the teacher asked him about what he'd read, he'd shrug. He was ashamed. He learned best watching and listening. If he could see something done, he could do it. But writing and arithmetic, things got blurred and turned around. Sometimes the word he read didn't make sense at all, or it wasn't a real word. The marks didn't read for him the way they did for others. In arithmetic, he got a different answer or no answer. There was a bigger and bigger gap between his world and everybody else's. "Do you?" the cat asked him. "Do I what?" asked the boy, startled out of his reverie. "Throw the things they give you to read?" He didn't say anything. The lady looked hard at Abby. "Could you help Ben the way that your grandmother helped you?" "He wouldn't let me," Abby said. "Oh, yes, he would," said the lady, flexing her huge wings and taking charge. "Wouldn't you?" said lady, giving Ben a meaningful look. He nodded a small nod. "But he sees backward," said Abby. "You need a specialist to fix that. It isn't glasses. They checked him for glasses. I had a hearing problem, so I couldn't read at first either. I had earaches. Even when I didn't have earaches, I couldn't hear the sounds of some of the letters. W and R sounded the same to me, so white and right sounded the same. They were going to send me out until I fell down the stairs. I went to the hospital for an operation on my ears. It fixed my balance, and I heard better. The specialist helped me get the sounds of the letters. The night I was in the hospital, Mom sat up with me so I wouldn't be so scared. She broke off. The lady coughed and looked at Ben. Do you hear okay? Yeah. Do you see me backward? No. Okay, said the lady, turning to Abby. Tomorrow, bring the book. Which one? There's more than one book? Abby nodded. Whittington, what book did Dick learn from? His grandmother didn't have a book, said the cat. She taught from what the priest helped her to write down. She wrote on scraps. Dick learned the Bible, sayings, and parables the old woman had copied, sounding out the words after her letter by letter as she pointed. The lady turned to Abby. Do you have a book with the things Dick learned to read? Some of them, said the girl. Okay, said the lady. Bring it tomorrow. She turned to Ben. Look, it's not so bad. You're not stupid. Abby had a reading problem. She got over it. You will too. Now let's listen to the rest of Whittington's story before you go up to meet your granddad. Chapter 12. Dick Goes to London. The cat rose and settled on the railing like a blown leaf. He would have preferred to speak from his nest in the hay, but Lady was of the firm opinion that audiences should look up. She said that if folks looked down, they'd fall asleep. Where the cat perched, it was cold and draughty. A snowflake brushed his nose. Whittington cleared his throat and hunched and settled, wrapping his ringed tail around his feet the way a gentleman wraps his scarf. He resumed in his rumbling, gravelly voice. One day after the harvest, the land agent arrived. He came every few years in a carriage to inspect his master's properties and collect the rents. He was short, fat, and red-faced. His dark green coat buttoned tight over his belly. His driver was a quick, muscular man of 30, with a long scar down the side of his throat. His name was Will Price. He wore a tall black hat and a uniform patched with leather at the elbows, cuffs, and knees. His coat was black with green piping, but the piping had mostly worn off, and the black was dulled with dust. His hair was lank and greasy, brown with gray in it. The boy asked Will if he and the agent were going to London. "Aye, in a roundabout way, collecting all that's due and righting all that's wrong," said the driver. "It'll be 2 months and more afore I see London again." "May I go with you?" Dick asked. "Nay, lad. Many's the ones that's asked, though they've all been older than you, but the agent would never have it. Besides, London's no place for a boy. For all of that, how old are you?" "8," said Dick. Will was surprised. The boy had the manner of someone older, but he looked about 6. The driver muttered to himself that in this country with food so poor the children grew up runty. "Too long, lad. Try when you're 14 and brawny." Ben interrupted the cat's story. "I'm 8 too. Am I bigger than he was?" "Yes," said the cat. Said Ben. The cat continued. Dick offered to help on the road. He made every argument why Will should take him along. "I know grooming, harness, tack. I can carry, keep the carriage nice, run errands. I can help dig it out and push in the miry places. I can spell you on the reins. I can sing." Will just shook his head. He knew what the agent would say. When it was clear to the boy how it was, his face worked, but he did not cry. It was a point of honor with him never to show tears. He made a plan. He put on all the clothes he'd owned and filched 3 loaves from the baker's rack. If he had been caught, he would have been beaten, but he wasn't caught. He stuffed the loaves inside his shirt. Early the next morning, as the carriage was pulling away, Dick jumped on the back and tangled himself in the luggage straps. He was scrawny, but he was tough. Will couldn't dislodge him. "But you're home! Your ma!" the driver pleaded, tugging at him. "I have to go to London," the boy panted as he struggled to fix his grip tighter. The driver was not mean, but the agent was. When he saw a strange boy tangled in the straps in the back of his carriage, he was all for slashing at him with the horsewhip. He was too fat and out of breath to do it himself, so he screeched to his driver, "Hit him, Will! Beat him! Whip the dirty beggar off!" Will wouldn't. He made up a story that Dick Whittington was a distant cousin and he was taking him to Cannes in London. "On your head and at your expense," snarled the agent, clambering back into his carriage, red-faced and huffing. Long after they were out of sight of the village, Dick heard the single dry bell from his grandmother's church. He pictured her looking for him. His heart gave a jump. He blinked back tears. They were 2 months on the road. The roads were terrible, plotted and dusty where they weren't puddled and clayey. In wet places, the carriage would sink to its hubs in long ruts. Sometimes Dick walked ahead, scouting the driest way through a bog. When they got stuck, he dug or pushed alongside Will, or went forward and pulled with the horses. He tried to please the grumpy man in the carriage. When the agent had to obey a call of nature, Dick brought the footstool and laid a path of brush over the mud. In some places, there were overhanging branches and reports of thieves and highwaymen. Will kept beside him a long knife and a cloth sack of fist-sized stones. A few days after they had left Dick's village, a wizened man lurched into the road waving a blade. The horses shied. As Will struggled to calm them, Dick fired a stone that hit the man in the thigh. The man squealed and stumbled backward into the brush. A week later, and 50 miles on in a remote place, 2 dirty-looking thugs rushed up from their hiding and grabbed the reins, pulling the horses into a swale. The horses reared. The carriage tipped. Will was roaring, trying to control the horses, when Dick put the knife in his teeth and dove under the flying straps. Balancing on the traces, he slashed at a hand. Its owner gaped as he sank under the flailing hoofs. Dick swung at the other man. The knife went deep. The reins went free. Will fought the pitching carriage back onto the highway and whipped the horses. It was rare that he struck them. Usually a snap was enough for them to start or speed up. He hit them now to settle them on running. There might be more robbers. Dick got cut deep from the corner of his mouth to his right ear when he pulled the knife from his teeth. When they rested the sweating horses, Will packed the boy's wound with a stinging plaster of cheese mold and moss that fell off only when the scab did. The cut itched, but it never infected. For the rest of his life, Dick carried a faint straight line across the right side of his face. Not ugly, but enough to notice. After that, the agent paid for the boy's meals and for odd bits of clothing Will bought for him as they went along because it was getting cold. At every stop, Will would ask if there was a boy Dick's size around, and did his ma have shoes or trousers or a jacket she'd sell for little. Dick put on everything he got, but there were never any shoes for him. "How did you get your scar?" the boy asked one drowsy morning as they lumbered along. Against Will's leathery throat, the scar ran straight down like a piece of white cord. They were in open, rolling country now, with sheep grazing. The animals dotted the green mounds of grass and bracken like clots of cream. The old sheep looked on, motionless, as the carriage passed. The lambs frisked and gamboled like young rats. There was a constant music from the little ones. Will and Dick never saw a shepherd. "It was a halibut that done it," Will said. "I was choking and gagging and turning blue. Ma figured I was dead anyway, so she felt down my pipe to where things were stuck and cut it open to get the bone and all out. Then she stitched me up and here I be. There wasn't hardly any blood." One evening, Dick asked if he might polish the agent's boots. Old Radish Face allowed as he might, and then allowed that he'd never had his boots come back so nice. Thereafter, the boy got a mug of drink with his supper, a lot of vitamins and dark beer. He slept with the horses because it was fall now and they kept him warm. "Beer?" Abby asked. "They gave him beer?" "Everybody drank it then," the cat replied. "Beer or cider. It was safer than the water. He drank milk too where he could get it, but milk doesn't keep and cider does." The cat continued. Dick and Will talked and sang together through the long, slow days on the road. The boy came to trust the coachman. Will began to think of him as a younger brother. Dick told Will about his dream and what he'd heard the carter say. He told his story with the fierceness of an old prophet, his lean face drawn and determined. "Those roads in London," Will mused one afternoon, "they be as hard as roads anywhere." Dick shook his head. "I'm going to London," he said. "Ah, you've set your teeth and you're not to get shook loose. Like as not, you'll end up Lord Mayor, but it will be a hard way. Will paused and looked down at the grim-faced boy. Dick was staring down. There's nothing to go back to, he said quietly. We'll stop there for today. Thanks for following along. A couple of things to notice. I know earlier in the chapter, 11, Abby mentioned that kids who get extra help in reading, she called the R word. And as a reminder, I know you guys know that's nothing that we use now, language-wise. It's not appropriate and it's very rude. In the time that Abby was in, it wouldn't have been as rude. She did recognize that maybe people would call people from a special class that name. But I don't think that when she was saying that she meant it in a mean way. But perhaps if you've been listening along with your parents or with a friend, maybe you want to make comments here and just talk about what else you heard in this chapter, these 2 chapters, and what you think. We'll hear more from it next time. All right, bye-bye, guys.